Football history is full of big names, players who scored, won trophies, and became champions. But some names stay, not for the number of goals, but for the moments they gave us and the hearts they won. Didier Drogba is one of those names. When the pressure peaked, that's when he became his best self. The King of Africa is here. Hey, welcome to Football Sport. Here, football isn't just a game, it's a human story. So make sure to like and subscribe to support the channel. Unlike a lot of stars, Drogba didn't grow up under the spotlight. He was seen late, trusted late, and constantly had to prove he belonged. Drogba himself said, "There were times I felt behind everyone else, but I learned to turn that feeling into motivation." And those doubts shaped who he became. A player made for big moments on the biggest stages. Before Drogba's name became linked with Chelsea, his journey looked nothing like that of a guaranteed star. In France, he moved between smaller clubs, Le Mans, Guingamp, and then Marseille. Drogba reached the top level late, and that late arrival meant he always had something to prove. He later said, "I didn't have extra time. Every match could have been my last chance." At Guingamp, the goals slowly began to come, but belief was still cautious. Marseille was the turning point, the place where Drogba realized he could do more than just score goals. He could change games. In the 2003-04 season, he wasn't just a striker. He was the leader of the attack. That season, he took Marseille to the UEFA Cup final. And right there, he caught the attention of one man, the special one of European football. In 2004, when Jose Mourinho brought Drogba to Chelsea, many people were surprised. Not because Drogba wasn't good, but because the choice was unpredictable. Roman Abramovich, Chelsea's new and wealthy owner, told Mourinho he was ready to sign any striker, at any level, at any price, to strengthen the squad. Names like Shevchenko, Klose, and Ronaldinho were on the table. But Mourinho mentioned only one name: Didier Drogba. Speaking about the transfer, Mourinho said, "I didn't want a striker who only stayed in the box. I wanted someone the team could rely on when the pressure was on." Mourinho was betting on something others couldn't see: mentality, character, responsibility. And time proved that this bet was anything but a mistake. Before the trophies arrived, defeat came first. Moscow, 2008. A night when Chelsea stood just steps away from the trophy. And in the rain, every dream was washed away. Drogba was sent off, an image that followed him for years, not as a hero, but as a man who lost control of the moment. The hero had fallen into a dark void, labeled the one to blame, alongside Captain John Terry. Drogba later said, "I never forgot that night, not because of the trophy, but because of the pain that stayed." But football isn't only about finals. A year later, the Champions League semi-final against Barcelona, a match people still talk about to this day. The refereeing, the decisions, and the feeling Chelsea were left with: injustice. After the game, Drogba looked into the camera and said, "It's a disgrace, an absolute disgrace." A sentence born of pure anger, not just protest. He later explained, "That night, I felt the hard work of an entire team had been." Big games demand big players, and Drogba was born for moments like these. Finals, semi-finals, nights where one single mistake could destroy everything. Frank Lampard once said about him, When the pressure was at its highest, we all knew who the responsibility belonged to. That trust didn't appear by accident. It was built over years, from a child in Abidjan, Ivory Coast, to Munich, a night when statistics, luck and logic were all against Chelsea. But football has never been loyal to logic. Sometimes it only needs one man, one hero. And that night, Didier Drogba was that man. Bayern scored. The celebration was ready. And just as despair began to swallow the Blues, the champion stepped forward. The king was there. And where the king stands, despair has no place. A towering leap, a header like the roar of a lion, from a man who had broken through every wall the world put in front of him to reach the top. Drogba was there. Extra time. And then a penalty conceded by Drogba himself. Moscow returned. The nightmare came back. That cursed rain from Moscow, now falling in the clear skies of Munich. But every hero has allies. Petr Cech saved the penalty. The final lived on. To penalties. And what moment could be greater for the terminator of this story than the final kick? Drogba stepped up. He scored, and he cried, and cried. As much as the rain of Moscow, the king stood at the very top. Drogba was never just a footballer. When his country, Ivory Coast, was consumed by civil war, he used his fame, not for attention, not for applause, but for impact. He once said, "My greatest pride was never the trophies. It was being able to give hope to the people of my country." He spoke to every side, east and west, north and south. He told them to lay down their weapons and stand together, watching the national team as one. Drogba stopped a 5-year war not with guns, not with violence, but with his voice. This was not football. This was the true power of a king. Every great story one day reaches its farewell. For Drogba, that moment arrived, not through sudden decline, but through awareness. He left football while his name still carried respect. On the day of his farewell, Drogba said, "I was lucky. Football gave me so much, and now it's time for me to give something back." He walked away from the pitch, but his impact remained, not only at Chelsea, but in football itself. Over his career, Didier Drogba played around 605 club and international matches and scored more than 300 goals. He was named African Footballer of the Year twice, in 2006 and 2009. With Chelsea, he won 14 major trophies, including 1 Champions League and 4 Premier League titles. And in Turkey, with Galatasaray, he added 3 more trophies to his legacy. Carlo Ancelotti once said, "In big games, Drogba was always decisive." Arsène Wenger believed that Drogba destroyed defenses both physically and mentally. John Terry had a simple description. Drogba was a nightmare to face and a source of calm for his teammates. Ashley Cole felt that just having Drogba on the pitch gave the team a sense of security. Rio Ferdinand admitted that defending against Drogba was one of the hardest challenges of his entire career. Nemanja Vidic believed that Drogba fought until the very last minute and that no ball was ever easy for him. Samuel Eto'o once said that Drogba didn't just represent himself, he represented an entire continent. Yaya Toure believed that Drogba proved an African player could lead Europe. And in the end, Drogba himself said, Football was never just a game for me. It was a way to make an impact.
Their stories come to an end, but some stories live on.
If you'd like to continue on this journey with us, don't forget to like and subscribe, and in the comments let us know which legend story you'd like to hear. Goodbye.